Welcome to the Mischief. I'm Valen, and this is Ender.io for Minecraft 1.20.1. You heard me properly. That is what we're looking at right now. Yes, I'm in Minecraft 1.20. And no, this is not exactly ready for your mod packs. It's currently in alpha, heavy testing, and a lot of things are still kind of in the works. One could say that they're broken, but honestly, it's in dev, so you can't really blame anything that's not working at this point because it's not fully released or anything. It's just them putting it together on the new system, and it looks great. Looks like they've been doing a lot of work. We've even got the old conduit systems. We've got some of the old machines and everything. We've got some changes in the process as well, and that's pretty much what I'm here to talk to you about today. It's just some of the changes for those that are used to the old Ender.io. It's still there, but it is slightly different and a little bit easier than it used to be. Gone are the days of simple machines. In with the single and only primitive machine, and that is a primitive alloy smelter. It's the only one that you're really going to need to worry about making to start with, and they've changed it up so it uses a little bit of deep slate, some grains of infinity. For those that are not familiar with this already, grains of infinity were a point of contention in the past. They're much simpler to obtain these days, but you can still obtain them in the same exact ways that you could before. That being with a flint and steel, going down to bedrock, which is quite a bit further down now than it used to be. You would light one up, and on occasion, you would have a chance of getting yourself a grain of infinity would happen from this. Alternately, you'd get absolutely nothing. But sometimes you do get one. Sometimes you get lucky. And that is exactly what happened there. One grain of infinity. You can automate that and so on, but, well, there are simpler methods nowadays because, as I said before, it's a very long way down to the underground at this point. Instead, you just need a little bit of deep slate, which is pretty much going to be at about the same spot it was before when you would get bedrock, and a little bit of flint. Opening this here, you can see I've got some flint. Obviously, you can make that just from digging up some gravel, and you can get yourself some deep slate of some sort. And if you want, you can even look up the recipe for grains of infinity. And it says in here, hold some flint, not a flint and steel, but flint in your offhand, and some deep slate or cobbled deep slate in your main hand. Then shift right click a block of obsidian, crying obsidian, or a grindstone to produce early grains of infinity. And that is the big change right there. Just by having some of this in the offhand, then taking some deep slate, and I aim at this, you then place it by accident on a piece of obsidian. Instead, I'm going to just stand here and try that way. Oh, I forgot. I need to sneak while doing this. Don't be like me. Make sure that you do things right. You need to sneak while doing this, and then you start using up some of this, and you'll start getting a bunch of grains of infinity here. I'll put those on my hotbars so you can see a little bit easier. And you get about 1-to-1 for the deep slate. And if I wasn't in creative, you'd probably use up a piece of flint every other use in that case. But you can also do it on a grindstone. Same thing. It does seem to want to try placing, so I recommend just like standing on top of it so you don't get that weird animation. You can see some of the flint is occasionally being used, and most directly the deep slate is going as a 1-to-1 ratio. So you can just get the grains of infinity really easy now, provided that you have access to both flint and some kind of deep slate. The whole thing with obsidian, crying obsidian, or grindstone, any of those three will work. You just need to sneak and right click with that. I imagine that'll make a lot of people pretty darn happy about, well, getting started in the new Ender.io. It's constantly getting overhauled, so I'm not really going to go too in-depth in this. This is just kind of the sneaky peek. But you will be starting most likely with a primitive alloy smelter, and that is made with some of that deep slate, one of those grains of infinity, and furnaces like I was showing you before. Then you can use it to just straight up smelt things as you would before. Just here, let me get closer. Right clicking on it, it has 3 inputs and 1 fuel slot, and then the items, get cooked coming out here. It cooks about the same speed as a furnace, but you can also put in multiple things here and create different alloys. In this case, I'm making energetic alloy ingots, and then I'm piping them out into another one, which I am then making energetic alloy ingots plus ender pearls to make another alloy, the vibrant alloy ingots, which then are also coming down here, and I'm just dispensing them out into this vacuum chest. Yeah, that's right. We've got a lot of stuff coming up. Things have returned in this case. But once you use this, you can start making some of your more basic alloys and get into something like a generator, which you will probably need to make straight away, because anything beyond the primitive alloy smelter is going to need power. And if you don't have power from other mods or anything like that, then you're going to need this. You cannot jump straight into the photovoltaic cells, which for those that don't already know, these are solar panels. You will have to have started in with some other kind of power source first, then you can get into those. Reason being, you need a SAG mill in order to create those some of the parts for those. But starting with this, you do notice some of the old classics in here, like capacitors. If you're not familiar with capacitors, they're a requirement for any of the machines to run. In this case, we've got a Stirling Generator, which requires dark steel ingots. These in your alloy smelter are going to be made with some iron, some powdered coal, and some obsidian. Wait a minute, powdered coal. How do I make powdered coal? In a SAG mill? Wait a minute, that doesn't work. Yes, it does, because there are shortcuts. Powdered coal can be made in a similar manner, holding flint in your offhand and 3 or more coal in your main hand. Then you shift right-click a block of obsidian, crying obsidian, or grindstone to produce early powdered coal. Same as you would with the bits of infinity there. But that is one way of doing it. It does not require any kind of grinding up or anything like that. But you can get better results using other materials. In this case, you can still do that for your early game, so you can make something like this. Now, you put your fuel source in here. It just needs to be some kind of burnable. Then you need some kind of capacitor, and it will start filling up. In this case, as much as this thing is making its power, it is being used in its neighboring item, and that is this alloy smelter, which is currently being powered by it, as well as a photovoltaic cell, but that's on the side there. And this alloy smelter here is just an upgraded version of the primitive alloy smelter. Now, it doesn't use the old one. It is an entirely new recipe, but it's the only one that you're going to need to worry about. It does have dark steel. It does have some void chassis and dark bimetal gears. You don't need to worry about those. It's just a bunch of dark steel stuff around some regular like iron and grains of infinity. But then you look at what's a void chassis. Well, that's, again, just grains of infinity plus more iron. So the recipes are actually a bit simpler, at least what they're looking at this point. Remember, anything in this video could change in the future quite drastically, depending upon, what direction they decide to go. But then once you've got yourself a Stirling Generator and maybe even an upgraded alloy smelter, either way, with your Stirling Generator, you can also create a SAG mill, which is made in a very similar way to your alloy smelter that I just described, with the void chassis, bimetal gears and stuff. You just add in a piston instead and a little bit more flint. And this thing here is going to end up getting you some goodies. You've got your special inputs that you can put in here, and they'll give you different benefits depending upon what you put in. So like if I look at flint here, it says main output 120%, bonus output 125%, power usage of only 85% instead of the 100% if it wasn't even in there. And you'll notice that it has this little meter on here. That's how much of that one piece of flint that it used is remaining. So there are different things in here that you can place. You've got your little grinding balls that you can make up and stuff to put in here to get better outputs and of all differing percentages and so on. Same as before. And of course it has the capacitor, an input, and it has multiple outputs potential. Looking at a SAG mill, there is only one for the item that I am currently grinding up, and that is sand to make silicon. But there are other options as well that you can use, and no longer do you need to worry about like the different kinds of organic waste or organic paste or something like that that you use to make the different things. Those are just going to be used for dyes at this point, or at least that's what it looks like. But you still have things like this really cool config menu so that you can choose your different outputs, whether they're pushing, pulling, or if there's nothing going on the side or anything. You can remove those. So a lot of the stuff was ported forward quite nicely. You also have, of course, your different redstone modes that you can choose from, and yep, turn it off very easily. And in this case, I just have like a barrel next to it and a barrel on top of it. So it's pulling the sand from the back and it's pushing silicon on the front or on the top. And in this case, this is currently being entirely powered by vibrant photovoltaic cells, which once again are solar panels. And looking at just like the simple photovoltaic cell, just so you can see some of the recipe stuff, we've got some new alloys in here, like a copper alloy ingot, which is silicon plus copper ingots. Then of course you need to have some kind of Ender IO clear glass, and the photovoltaic plates, which require some composite, which is made from silicon, powdered lapis, and powdered coal. Powdered lapis you can't make quite so simply outside of a machine as before, but now if you had a SAG mill, you can then just grind up a bit of lapis yourself and get yourself some of that powdered lapis. Then you make your simple voltaic cells with your bimetal gears and more infinity stuff, but then you can always upgrade those again, or just make better ones with your different versions as you would before. Of course, the more difficult it is to make the different alloys for these things and using the different capacitors of varying ability, it's going to upgrade it appropriately. And most importantly, as they're solar panels, they only work during the daytime. And I have currently just like an energy conduit going in here. Speaking of conduits, that's something else to think of here. Conduit binders. It's not a very difficult recipe. Again, gravel is going to be one of your biggest components for this mod in order for you to get a lot of the stuff you need. But then once you make your conduit binders, you can use those to make things like item conduits from pulsating alloys, which is just ender pearls and iron ingots. And that just uses nuggets to get you several of those. Then you've got your redstone conduits, which transport redstone signals along different conduits. And your energy conduit, which of course just, transfers energy. It's pretty basic stuff. But if you look here, they can also occupy the same space as they have been able to in the past. I currently have an item conduit and a redstone conduit going in here. One should be of note that at the time of this video, redstone channels are not implemented yet. So if I have redstone signal going on back here, it's not going to transmit all the way to the end into a channel. It may give a redstone signal like this one is, but it's not going to work in a channel just yet. That's probably going to be fixed within the next couple days here after this video is up. But if you notice, I currently have like a redstone chest, gold chest, glowstone chest. They're all being fed on channels from here. And no, they don't have the UI names on here yet, but they have transported over the UI. So you can see that we have different options for choosing how things interact and how they work and how you can have them currently activating. Like these check marks currently are input and output at the top here. And you can see that this is currently outputting from this chest. So that's going to be here. It's on the blue channel. And then it's got a redstone mode as well because I've got redstone in here going along with it. And you can have it active with a signal and so on. And you can change the channel for that too. Plus you've got your round robin and input, output, etc. Got all sorts of different options as you would have in the past. And they're all feeding into this current primitive alloy smelter, which again, being fed down again to make your different ingots, which are being sucked into a vacuum chest, which then of course has filters and stuff like that, and not everything again has been implemented. But I mean, hey, some of these things are just really cool. Trapped chest, or some kind of chest, you've got iron ingots and pulsating crystals made with more of those pulsating alloys, which again, ender pearls and iron ingots. You get yourself this different option for sucking things up into the void, or well, safekeeping in this case. But let's go over those capacitors real quick. I was talking about how you've got different kinds. You've got basic ones, you've got double layers, you've got octadic, and then you've got even better ones, or worse ones, that you might find out in the world as part of the treasure. You could find them out in any of the numerous different treasure chests throughout the normal vanilla stuff. And those will have varying capabilities, some of them comedic, some of them extremely powerful, other ones not so much. But you never know, you might be able to use them in one way or another. But just to give an example, I have exactly the same setup in all three of these alloy smelters, which by the way, upgrading to an alloy smelter that's powered instead of fueled, you then of course get the IO configuration, so you can change things like that. You get the redstone mode options, plus you can change it to furnace only mode, alloy only mode, or a mixture of both. And it actually shows you the difference on those on just the display here. But let's go with this. They have all the same settings on all three of these. The only difference is that we've got the low, medium, and high capacitors. And to give you an example, each one of these will take 3 cobblestone at a time to cook. So let's turn it all on at the same time. This one taking a while to charge up. It's still cooking, and there we go. There's the first 3. This one here has already done 4 sets, just did a 5th one. This one here is already most of the way through the stack. So yeah, there's a big difference in their performance. Same thing with, we've got some SAG mills over here, low, medium, and high. These are going to be using the different capacitors. They're going to be turning coal into coal powder. And you can see how quickly these things move. This is just going to do one at a time. But again, they are going to perform quite nicely. And of course, I'm not using any kind of flint in the side. But you can see the difference with the capacitors on just these few examples. Now, of course, they also have been importing other things like the Enchanter here that allows you to create enchantments, some of which are rather new enchantments and aren't just vanilla, but they are really nice to use. And you might also recall that we have things like the Slice and Splice, the Powered Spawner, and the Soul Binder. Not everything is implemented on these ones, though they are currently being powered by Stirling Generators, but you could use these to make certain things. In this case, let's turn that active, and it will take some time for it to actually create this item, unless of course I had a much faster or better capacitor. Let's put this octadick in here, and progress goes very fast. And there we go, a zombie electrode, which currently doesn't have a use at the moment, but I'm sure will soon, because I don't have anything set up for powered spawning as of yet. But again, you've got your Soul Binder, which allows you to actually start making your different kinds of spawner types, allowing you to start harvesting your mobs so that you can then use them for all sorts of other things in the future. There's lots of different expansions planned and so on. No longer should you need any kind of like different modules in order to get this to just run in the base game. It'll be Ender.io, and then they're probably going to have a few different expansions, so to speak. Now, if you want to check any more of this out, feel free to check out the links in the description below. You can also visit the Discord that the devs have on there. I should have any of those links down there for you available. I do recommend that if you want to get this, you grab it on Modrith, or if you do have another option, you could get it on Curseforge. Anyway, that pretty much covers it for today. I hope you enjoyed this little showcase, if you will, of what's to come for Ender.io, or at least what is currently on the menu. If not, hopefully something a little bit more interesting and in-depth in the future, which is where I'll start doing some more bit by bits. Anyway, till next time, folks, I'll see ya.